All right, hi everyone. Welcome to Mindgasms. So, I am Andrew, aka Casual Sex Mindgasms, for the purposes of this video, and I'm going to criticize the evolutionary biologists and professional anti-woke reactionaries Bret Weinstein and Heather Heying being interviewed on the quote-unquote journalist Megyn Kelly's show, and they're making the completely phenomenally hyperbolic claims that both that birth control basically destroys society and also that casual sex is bad for everyone. So obviously those are completely fucking ridiculous claims, and I am going to criticize them making these particular claims. So let's go into the video here and get right into it. Okay.
Weird, where now promiscuity is somehow a sign of your fierceness. And I know I said this yesterday.
Who said that? I've never heard anyone say that promiscuity is part of your fierceness as a woman, which is what I'm assuming she's
I
saying.
feel like Tipper Gore. I really feel uncomfortable saying this stuff, but I have to be honest because I know I speak for a lot of people. I'm uncomfortable with the asses everywhere, the Kardashian body. It's like, it's so in your face. There's nothing left to the imagination. It just feels vulgar to me. I don't know. I feel like
that's just her opinion. People can have different opinions about whether you like seeing people's like women's asses or not. You don't have to watch it if you don't like it.
Sexual relationships and our love relationships have gotten really confused.
They absolutely
Again,
have.
confused is just, that's a very subjective opinion, because contrary to what these cultural conservatives say, I'm not saying Bret Weinstein and Heather Heying are actually conservatives like some uber lefties, but they sound culturally conservative whenever they say anything about culture, pretty much. But it has not been the norm throughout the vast majority of human history for people to be in monogamous relationships. That's a fairly new thing, and it's not as evolutionarily natural as people like Jordan Peterson and Bret Weinstein and Heather Heying claim. Like, if you look at actual human history, that hasn't been true, and plenty of other evolutionary biologists and even evolutionary psychologists who are more likely to make that claim disagree with this claim as well.
And I think one of the things that we argue is that there's been a takeover of language, which is part of what's confusing people. So the idea that ass is everywhere, as you say, Megyn, is about some sort of sex positivity. Sorry, I actually think it's quite the opposite. That's sex negativity. That is treating sex like...
Oh, I forgot I had myself muted. Sorry. That's ironic, because she's actually using a sex negative opinion to say that casual sex is negative, because there's sex positive feminism and sex negative feminism, and she's just making the case that that casual sex is bad, and they're about to say that casual sex is bad for everyone. But there are plenty of sex positive feminists who, are, maybe some of them are pro casual sex and like being promiscuous as a part of your fierceness, but I've literally never met a woman in my entire life who has quite that extreme of an attitude. They're just okay with having casual sex, and maybe they seek that out, but it's not like they think it makes them more of a woman to have casual sex or anything like that. I don't really think that's much of a thing, other than maybe like 1,000 people on Twitter, which is why these people are way too reactionary, because they're reacting to a tiny, tiny, tiny minority of people on the entire planet, and a tiny minority of people over the entirety of human history too.
Like it's nothing. And, just as we all know that junk food is bad for us, junk sex is bad for us too. And
no, that's a fucking dumb claim. That's a stupid analogy. Junk food is bad for us. Junk sex is bad for us too. That's a really stupid claim. Like, who is she to define what so-called junk sex is? Also, there's no evidence whatsoever that that casual sex is bad for people. They go into this typical conservative thing about how, it's empty and shallow and it makes you feel bad about yourself. But some people just enjoy sex because it's fun, and they don't want that added intimacy with people that some people get. And it really depends on the person. Some people like to have casual sex and go through lots of different relationships. Others prefer monogamy and more serious relationships. What other people do doesn't affect you. There's nothing inherently wrong with monogamy. There's nothing inherently wrong with any other type of sexual arrangement. In my opinion, there's nothing inherently wrong with casual sex if it has literally no impact whatsoever on your life. So why should you fucking care if other people have casual sex? Like, I'm like, whether I'm having casual sex or in a relationship, how does that affect anyone unless they're like super judgmental or something about it? Also, this is a super double standard too. Do you see people who are pro casual sex advocates going around criticizing people for being in monogamy and saying monogamy's bad for you or some shit like that? Like, that's just stupid.
Wildly enthusiastic about sex and know that it's amazing and know what enriching and passionate experience it brings, and still not want to engage, and rather explicitly not want to engage in cheap junk sex everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's not cheap junk sex. It's like you don't have to denigrate casual sex just because it's casual sex and it's not with someone you love. I mean, I personally kind of agree that those tend to be different things. Like, there's a difference between sex and making love. If you're in a relationship with someone, it can mean making love, which can mean it can be different. But that's if you're in a good relationship. Everyone knows that plenty of people throughout the entire globe, throughout human history, not only today, are in loveless relationships, and they never even have sex anymore, or when they do, they have bad sex and they don't get pleased, and or the woman doesn't come but the man does, or something like that. It's not as if monogamy magically leads to you having better sex because you have a more of an emotionally intimate relationship with people. That makes no sense whatsoever. There's not even necessarily a correlation there. It's not even necessary to say correlation does not equal causation, because the correlation isn't even necessarily there.
Right, and we don't see that message anywhere near as much. It was like, back in the 50s, you'd be totally shamed if you wanted to have premarital sex, and then like everything, we totally overcorrected to where now somehow you're fierce, again to use that word, if you've lost count of your partners and you're living in a throuple and monogamy is a joke to you. And by
Okay, this is again phenomenally hyperbolic. Like, it's not as if women are being praised or praising each other or praising themselves for being promiscuous and living in a shitty place or something. Also, there's not necessarily any fucking correlation whatsoever between uh women having casual sex and them having shitty life circumstances and living in shitty houses. They're like, since this is kind of a generational thing in a lot of different ways, which I'm sure they would actually agree with, it's people of a certain generation, like millennials or people below that, Gen Z or whatever, are more likely to be this way. And there are plenty of people in these generations who are going on to make a lot of money, and not all of them and not all of the rich people are being monogamous. It's not like there's a correlation between financial success and being monogamous. That's not a thing. You can just as easily be a promiscuous person and become financially successful. There's no reason to think that being promiscuous leads to you not being financially successful. That doesn't make any sense.
by the way, so is gender. And it was like, I would.
And if you're talking about it in terms of birth control, helps you be like, it helps you be more promiscuous without getting pregnant. Therefore, you can still have casual sex as a woman and still be a career pursuing woman. So you can have casual sex and you can be financially successful. There's every possibility in the universe for a woman to have casual sex and use the birth control to enjoy having casual sex, but not get tied down to a relationship, so she can focus on her career. Plenty of women are doing that nowadays, and like it's not anywhere near as a big deal as the way they're painting it to be.
But I feel for these 20-year-olds, Brett, and as the mother of 3 young kids, I feel for them too. I'm really hoping and praying that by the time they get to college in 6 to 8 years, it's all going to be solved.
No, that's just phenomenally judgmental, and there's like, it's just entirely her own subjective opinion.
Oh, they have a serious problem that I think many of them are just not aware of.
It's not a serious problem to be promiscuous. Just a massive overreaction as usual.
Right, because they don't understand that there is some sort of alternative to the world they've been handed, but they need to discover it and figure out how to make it.
You really think that people who enjoy casual sex are not aware that there's an alternative world to live in, and they could choose to be monogamous if they want to? Like, that's a completely ridiculous claim, or at least a ridiculous implication. Like, go and ask anyone who has casual sex. Do you really think that a single one of them would say they've never considered monogamy or any other sort of sexual relationship or any lifestyle change ever? They've never even, like, not even necessarily considered it, but thought about it. Like, I wonder about monogamy. Like, this is just fucking ridiculous.
Make it work. And this is not simple, because let's say, for example, that you correctly understand that there's something wrong with these new sophistications and that it doesn't result in sexual satisfaction for anyone, as far as I can.
That's not fucking true. Are you fucking kidding me? People like having casual sex because they get satisfaction from it. Yeah, some people have empty sex, but plenty of people enjoy casual sex, whether we're talking about men or women. They're, like, I and many other men throughout my life have come across women who really enjoy casual sex, many of whom enjoy that more than me, and want other forms of intimacy like cuddling or stuff like that less than I do. And maybe the norm is the other way around, but plenty of people enjoy casual sex. That's why they do it, because it's fun and it feels good. Him making the claim that it doesn't even make people feel good is just totally 100% fucking false.
Can tell. So you decide you're going to not do that. Well, suddenly you're in competition.
Oh, also, let's keep in mind, I forgot to mention, they have not listed any reason or cited any evidence whatsoever for even a single one of their claims throughout this entire video so far. We're supposed to just take it on faith or as an argument from authority from them, whereas I've read their book, A Hunter-Gatherer's Guide to the 21st Century, in which they make a similar argument, and they don't really list any evidence for that either. Not, at least not, I don't think, if I remember correctly, they literally list a shred of evidence for any of these claims. Maybe they do, and I'm remembering incorrectly, but I don't think they do.
For attention with all sorts of people who haven't decided that. And I don't know that phones ring anymore so much, but your phone's not going to ring if that's what they do. And so it's going to seem like you've made an error, when in fact...
What are you talking about? You mean like with looks fading as you get older? That's that's a thing that happens whether you're in a monogamous relationship or looking for casual sex. But like, that's just a part of aging. And yeah, maybe it'll be like the implication rather of this argument is that as you're getting older, it's harder to find a monogamous relationship than it is to find. No, wait, it's even harder to find casual sex when you're older than it is to find a monogamous relationship. Is that what he's saying? Because I don't see how it would be either one or the other. I guess if you're less physically attractive you're less likely to be able to have casual sex with people, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be monogamous. And if you are, it like it doesn't matter. Why do you care one way or the other? Maybe people have been monogamous before and they decide to be more casual, or maybe they've been monogamous before and they're in a relationship with someone who wants to be polyamorous, and they start having, they're a couple who starts having sex with other couples, or they have three ways only with men or only with women, or they play together or separately. Like, this doesn't make that much of a difference on society unless you let it. It's, like, birth control has changed society a lot. I definitely agree with that, but I really don't see how there have been that many negative consequences at all from it.
One needs to recognize, if we go back to the idea that men have two different ways of reproducing and one involves no commitment, if you are trying to compete for attention and you get attention of men by behaving in this incredibly provocative way, it works, but it's not the right kind of attention, because men are wired to view women who...
Oh, yeah. Women getting men's sexual attention is the wrong kind of attention. Again, that's his totally subjective claim. That's his own opinion. That's why, like, you don't even have to say it's the right kind of attention. It's just totally his own fucking opinion that it's the wrong kind of attention. There's no evidence whatsoever for that. And he's about to give a reason, but this isn't evidence, and his is also his own opinion too. I'm going to go back a few seconds so he can fully say that.
Who behave that way differently than... It works, but it's not the right kind of attention, because men are wired to view women who behave that way differently than they view women who behave in a choosy way. And so the way to do this, if you are a young person...
This is like saying, evolutionarily speaking, men want women who are hard to get, as if all men, or even men in general, are like this, and there's all this game playing and shit. Everyone I've ever talked to, whether we're talking about men or women, hates this game playing shit. But yeah, a lot of people do it, but that doesn't mean that, like, even if you're a man who's playing the game and you're chasing after a woman who's playing hard to get, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what you want and that's what you want to be doing. It doesn't necessarily mean you want the woman that's playing hard to get. You're like, probably, like, in my experience, I would do those, like, game playing things because it's what I want to do. It's what I want to do to get that woman, and it's not what I want to, and it's not what I want to be doing. But I know there are these stupid cultural expectations to do with dating and trying to get with someone being a stupid fucking game. Like, it's not something I want to do, and I bet if you asked a lot of men, it's not something they want to do either. I mean, there are plenty of guys who like playing the game and stuff like that, but that doesn't mean that that guys in general like women who play hard to get. That's a really subjective thing. There are plenty of guys who don't like women who are playing hard to get, and there are plenty of promiscuous women who play hard to get too. There's also not necessarily any correlation whatsoever, but between a woman being promiscuous and a woman being easy. Maybe she likes to play hard to get before she has casual sex with someone. Like, you don't know that there's this inherent connection.
Person, and you're trying to figure out how to navigate this part of your life. I think the thing to shoot for is a culture in which people who get it opt out of these false sophistications and begin to generate some
It's not a false sophistication. Again, that's totally his own subjective opinion that it's a false sophistication.
Set of rules about how they will behave towards each other. And you know what? It's not going to be as exciting on a nightly basis, but will it result in you being satisfied years down the road? The chances are much, much greater.
Okay, but I'll challenge you on that. I actually think it is.
He doesn't even list a shred of evidence for that, for why being monogamous leads to better long-term happiness than casual sex. But I mean, maybe there are studies that show that to an extent, but if you're saying that monogamy makes you happier than casual sex, I call bullshit right there. There are plenty of people who are in monogamous relationships who, like I was saying earlier, are unhappy not only for sexual reasons, perhaps, as I was saying earlier, but also just because, you know, they don't like the person they're with, their feelings change, they get cheated on, something terrible happens, they become abusive or vindictive or all that kind of shit. Like this is, again, just totally not the case.
More satisfying on a nightly basis because the chase is fun, and you know, extending the chase. Doug is still chasing me. We've been married for 15 years. You know, he's still on unsteady ground.
I agree. I
And-
said it wouldn't be.
That's not, like, why do you want to do that if you're married? Like, to me, again, this is a totally subjective thing too. So this is just my difference of opinion, but there's nothing objective about her opinion or about them agreeing with her opinion. For me, like, the part of the appeal of monogamy is supposed to be that you don't have to chase your girlfriend or wife or whatever anymore. Then you don't have to play these stupid games. Why would you still do that shit when you're married? That's stupid, in my opinion, man.
Be as exciting,
right.
but I didn't say it wouldn't be as satisfying. I agree with you that the all wisdom is very closely related to delayed gratification. And so the point is, the sex you ultimately have at the end of that chase.
No, not all. Oh, wait, I'll wait until he's done.
Is a whole different sport.
No, not all wisdom comes from delayed gratification. I do definitely agree that delayed gratification can be a good thing, because there's some evidence that it can make you more, like, it can give you more willpower, obviously, and it can supposedly mildly increase your testosterone production and stuff like that. And it does help you be more productive. And what was that? There was some famous child study. I forget what exactly, oh yeah, it was something like a scientist puts kids in a room and he says, you can have one marshmallow now or wait an hour and have, I forget what the number was, but like 2 or 3 marshmallows. And the result of the study had something to do with the fact that the kids who waited and delayed the gratification in order for greater rewards of more marshmallows, it was predictive of greater financial outcomes or educational outcomes in life or something like that, if I remember correctly. It was a long time ago that I learned about this study, but anyway, there are probably other studies in social science that study similar things. But again, this is a massively hyperbolic claim that all wisdom basically boils down to delayed gratification. That is fucking ridiculous. There's plenty of wisdom that has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with gratification. Like, I mean, I can't think of that many examples off of my head, but one that I like, that actually is one of the few sentiments that I agree with Jordan Peterson about, who I criticize all the time, and was one of the few sentiments that Jordan Peterson and Slavoj Žižek, who I talk about all the time and I like a lot more as an intellectual. It was the one point that they agreed on, or at least one of the few points in their famous debate, that meaning is more worth pursuing than happiness, and it can, like, it can even ironically lead to greater happiness, somewhat paradoxically, than pursuing happiness itself. But anyway, the point is that there is plenty of fucking wisdom that has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with delaying gratification. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed me criticizing these really dumb, massive generalizations that Bret Weinstein, Heather Hang, and Megyn Kelly were making about birth control and casual sex. Thanks for watching. Share this everywhere. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Let me know your angry opinions in the comments, but if you're a dickhead, I probably won't respond to you. And click that bell to be notified when I come out with new videos. Actually, the next one I'm probably going to do is going to be the review of the 4th book in the epic fantasy series called Malazan, and the 4th book is House of Chains. So I'll probably put that out tomorrow, so look forward to that. And check out my Patreon page. Link is in the description of the video, as always. And like I always say, most importantly, always remember this: the funk cures all, and groove is in the heart. And who cares if you have casual sex? It's not a big deal. Monogamy is good. Monogamy can be good. Casual sex can be good. Polyamory can be good, or anything else. You don't need to give a shit about what other people do with their sex lives. Anyway, thanks again, everyone, and adios until next time.